Alright, so I just wanted to make a quick video or a quick recording on something I've been seeing recently on several channels. So in these channels, their main purpose is to debunk, right? So they talk about people that talk about the shape of the earth, or they talk about conspiracy theories, or even talk about people who take the First Amendment too far, or the types of people, right? I don't have to say it, but one thing that draws my attention is that many of them will say, "Oh, I'm atheist," or I don't have a religion, that type of thing. And when I agree with a lot of what they say, regarding like the science and about the people. It is an interesting aspect of what leads people to kind of create these theories about their realities, or kind of justifications of why their life is not going the way that they want it to, right? However, when I listen to the argument of is God is real, and then they say no, God is disproven, or you cannot prove God and therefore God doesn't exist, that type of thing, right? It really comes into question why they're saying, because in many cases, those who are atheists, they start arguing on the matter of you can't prove God, and it's from a place of emotion. It's no longer a place of logic, right? And so here's the thing. I'm not trying to attack anybody who says they're atheist or agnostic. I'm just going to express this opinion, right? But there is a fallacy on how things are being said when it comes to like God and all that. So one of the things that is argued, you can't prove God. Well, if you use the scientific method, it's important to recognize that the scientific method is not about proving your hypothesis. In grade school, we are taught that yes, you form an observation, a hypothesis, and then there you go, right? You design an experiment, and your purpose is to prove your hypothesis. And if it's disproven, then you come up with something else. Well, that's not actually the case. I mean, if you look at the scientific method is a series of steps. It's a procedure that has been agreed upon, that in terms of the definition, right? Where you're assigned an experiment based on an observation, and that's how you start. There's an observation of a phenomena. You formulate an idea, an explanation on the phenomena. And so you design an experiment, you analyze the results, and if there's anything that needs to be revised, that maybe it wasn't proven your hypothesis, or maybe it was, you proceed to pass it on to a fellow peer or a peer-reviewed journal, have it critiqued, have it read by others who might know or not know as much as you do on that matter, on the subject. And then there's something that's called reproducing, which is another person might try to attempt either that same experiment but with slight changes, or they might attempt a different aspect based on the experiment. And so what I'm trying to say is that in the scientific method, when you follow it, the purpose is not to prove your hypothesis. Your intention as a scientist is to prove the null hypothesis. The null hypothesis is the opposite of your hypothesis. So, using God as an example, you say, okay, God is not real. I haven't seen God. I haven't seen any traces of God. etc. All right. So your purpose in designing an experiment is to prove your null hypothesis. If your hypothesis is God is not real, then your null hypothesis will be God is real. Here's the question. How do you prove God is real? What measurements can you observe? That is the trick part. That is the question. Because there's nothing tangible that can be measured or that can be observable, then you cannot really design an experiment to prove God is real. On the flip side, you also cannot prove that God isn't real. You cannot disprove the existence of a God. So we're at an impasse. If you cannot design an experiment, again, the purpose of the scientific method is not proving your hypothesis, your idea, your explanation on a phenomena. It is to prove the null hypothesis, the hypothesis, the opposite of your hypothesis, I should say. So, if you cannot prove or disprove, there are no tangible measurements that can be done to do so, then your experiment, any experiment that you do, will fail to be generalizable, reproduced, or, it's not going to be able to be done. Your experiment is already doomed to be a failure. There are no parameters that you can set, and no matter what you say, it's just going to be an opinion. You cannot say it as a fact. And that goes for religious people as non-religious people. Personally, I'm of the mind of there are many things in this world that cannot be proven, and maybe in the future we might be able to have the technology to prove or disprove the existence of God, that we might be able to be at that point. However, I do not believe in one man, one woman being the representatives of God, no matter the religion. So that's just my personal opinion. I do believe there is a higher being, that there is a God. I do not believe that anybody represents them, or I do not believe that God is not real, simply put. And this belief is not in conflict with science. Religion does not have to contradict science. The people that do that are not doing it based on their religion. They do it just, mind washed, or I don't know. I mean, if you look at it simply, any arguments that are done against the case of the existence of a God, you're only disproving a book. You're only disproving what is written, which was written by somebody else. And in the case of the Bible, we're currently has been used for the past 2 centuries, I guess, is the King James second, right? That edition. But you're only disproving a book that was written by somebody a long time ago, which is a translation of a script that was written even longer before that. So, again, going back to the beginning, using the scientific method to argue the existence of a God is not possible, because there is no parameters that can be measured or observable. Those who argue for or against, saying, yeah, God is real because of the Bible, or God is not real because the Bible is wrong, those are moot points, and they're only opinions. You cannot say they're facts. There's even somebody who has a news channel over on YouTube and on the internet. They all cry out loud, no, it's not real, and they'll get very upset saying, I don't understand what people say, it's not how it's real, and blah blah blah. But my answer is, you cannot say the opposite. You cannot state that it's a fact that there is no God, just as much as you can't state that it's a fact that there is a God. No, it's just a belief. So that's my take on it. It's just a quick video. If you do find this video and you feel enraged, in favor or against, try to be civil. And I'm not just talking about a comment section, because you can write anything, right? But at the end of the day, when we talk about having an open discussion with other people, be it online or offline, try to keep things civil. People can argue against and disagree with you. You can agree with other people. It doesn't matter. Always try to keep arguments civil, because the moment where somebody puts in emotion in their arguments and in their rationale, at that point, anything that's said afterwards becomes mute, and it defeats the purpose of the discussion because nobody is listening. When there's emotions involved, nobody is listening. All right. Yeah, that's all I wanted to say, really. But yeah, see you on the next video. Bye bye.